This is my third and final video hiking in the Truchas Peak area with my son Garrett Robinson. Today is July 13th, 2009, and we're hiking Chimayosos Peak first, which has an elevation of 12,841 feet, and then we'll be hiking Bárbara Peak, which has an elevation of 12,515. I hiked North Truchas 2 days ago. Garrett didn't, so he's hiking North Truchas today. This area is my favorite area in New Mexico, the beautiful Pecos Wilderness and the Truchas Peak area. See my first two videos for some of our other adventures on this hike. He's gonna get you, Garrett. He knows you're scared of him. Now, this thing came up to us. We didn't come up to them. And there's some of the girlies who are losing their winter coats. There's Chimayosos Peak that we did, and Peak 12, 5, something, 16 something. Day 3. On the morning of day 3 after breakfast, we headed to Chimayosos Peak and another peak that we were not sure of its name. We later discovered that it was Bárbara Peak, or also sometimes called Little Chimayosos Peak. Garrett was also going to do the North Truchas Peak today. I was glad I'd already done North Truchas. I paid my dues. We headed back to the Santa Barbara Ridge and up to the top of the peak. It was a real leg burner. We headed almost straight up. We made the top of Chimayosos Peak elevation 12,841. It took about 2.5 hours from our base camp. We took some pictures and marveled at the beauty of the abundance of the high Arctic alpine wildflowers. We headed towards Bárbara Peak. Along the way, in the canyon below, we saw 2 male elk with full racks. They were the biggest horns I've ever seen. We also saw more bighorn sheep. We made Bárbara Peak elevation 12,515. It took an hour and a half from the last peak. It was easy, but burned the legs going straight up. We headed back and had to put on our ponchos for a little bit when it rained. We got out our walkie-talkies because we were separating. Garrett headed to North Truchas, and I gladly went back to the lakes after doing it 2 days ago. Garrett made the top of the peak going the same way I had gone up. He's now done all the New Mexico 13K peaks, and 2 days ago I got them all. He went straight off the peak south to the lakes. He said it was very hard on the legs coming straight back. The total hike for me was 6 hours, and I went about 6.5 miles. Back at base camp, we had lasagna and a wonderful evening campfire. It was just us at the lake, and we felt like we owned everything around us. This was the area that we started our hike, way back in here, and you can see where we came. We came up this valley. You can see the meadows. We went through beautiful meadows, and we came. This was day one hike. This is usually something that should have been done in about 2 days. We hiked all the way to here, and then I made the ridge, and I decided, well, we're so close, I'll just do the top of North Truchas Peak. So I went all the way to the top of North Truchas, and then I came down. Garret made a part where his legs were hurting him from kind of an injury from meteor reading years ago. And then we went and we made our camp down here in at the Truchas Lakes. You can see it there. And we saw elk swimming across the lake, a whole herd of them this morning, or I saw them. Chimayosos Peak, which is right here. This is 12,800. Yesterday, Garret and I hiked from down in the lake, right here, Truchas Lake, and we hiked all the way up to Truchas Medio, and then that other peak, Middle Truchas Peak. Some of the expansive views around, you can see all directions, pretty incredible views in every way. Here's Garret. We'll have Garret get a final picture with me. We're thinking of going down and doing this peak. It's not named, but it might end up being named. Here, Garret, get a picture of me.
There's old Dad, lively as ever. He's trying to evade the camera.
Day 4, I slept under the stars with my new 2.5-pound tent bivvy open to the sky. That night, I felt like I was in God's simulator. There were falling stars, distant flashes of lightning. The stars were magnificently dense, little clouds drifting through the sky. There was a slight rain, and the moon coming up very late felt like a light beacon shining in my face. It was wonderful. In the morning, we had a final visitor, a beautiful male Bighorn sheep that stayed with us all morning. We left camp at about 10:45 a.m., happy that we had been able to do the 5 peaks on a very long 4-day hike. From the lakes, we hiked back to Santa Barbara Ridge, then down the beautiful west fork of the Santa Barbara Campground. We had lunch along the way and got back after an 11 or 12 mile, 7-hour hike. Our total mileage for the trip by my GPS was 31 miles. If we went by the distance of the signs we saw, then we hiked 35 miles, including the peaks. Our total up-down elevation gain was 7,336 feet. This area is truly my favorite area in New Mexico, such splendorous high mountain beauty, and there is such seclusion it feels like one has gone backwards in time. What a joyous 4 days with my son.
Today is July the 14th. We've just finished packing up. We're gonna head on home. It's been a really nice time up here. Pretty much had the campground, the lake to ourselves, except for a couple of people on a horse yesterday and this morning. And done quite a number of peaks. Dad loading up. Some great weather. Just a little sprinkling last night and that was it. Sorry. Here's Dad.
So we're getting packed up. We did 5 peaks and 4 on the websites, and 1 we're going to see about getting added on the website. We're at Truchas Lake, and we hiked Truchas Peak North, Medio Truchas, Truchas Peak Middle, and we hiked Chimayosos, and we hiked 12,500 and some foot other non-named peak. We had a bighorn sheep in our one of the males. This is one of the females, which doesn't have the big horns. They've been around us. The big guy came and got in our sack and took our 2 breakfast bagels that we had. He's around all morning. I've got some pictures of him and a pretty lake, which I saw elk swimming across it. It's the second highest range in New Mexico, the Truchas Peak range, and here's a little lake real close to where our camping area is. This is where we had a fire last night, and we got about a 12-mile hike out approximately. And there's the Truchas Peaks. That's a peak I've done 5 times, and that and a ridge to another peak was the one we did 2 days ago. And then Garret did that. Actually, the peaks on the other side of that and beyond, I did 3 days ago. Garret did yesterday. And here's one of the little baby bighorns. At first, we thought they were goats, but they're just they're not. They're the females and the. There it is. Zoom us back out here. I get a final picture of me here.
And then